There are women who, throughout history, have been true pillars of faith, courage, and resilience. They faced challenges that seemed impossible, yet they never lost what made them strong, their unwavering faith in God. Have you ever wondered what truly makes a woman strong in life? It isn't the absence of problems, but the gifts that God places in her heart. Today, you're going to discover the 7 gifts that transform a woman of God into someone capable of overcoming any obstacle. Get ready, because these words are meant not just to be heard, but to be lived. Before we begin, there's something very important I need to share. There are powerful secrets about connecting with your spiritual side and protecting yourself from negative energies that almost no one knows. If you want to access this exclusive content, click on the link in the first pinned comment. Now let's get into the video. Life often puts us in situations that seem larger than what we can handle. Pain, loss, and moments of doubt. Yet, there is something inside you that's stronger than any storm, even if you can't see it right. Now, God has already placed everything you need in your heart to move forward. Many women have felt powerless, questioned their paths, and doubted their abilities. But something inside them kept them from giving up, sustaining them even when everything around urged them to stop. Today, I want to speak directly to your heart and remind you who you are and the strength God has given you. There is a huge difference between merely existing and living with a purpose. And when you understand what God has placed within you, your view on life will change forever. An unshakable faith is something nothing can topple in a woman who places her trust in God. Even when the world around her seems to crumble, she remains steady because she knows her strength comes from a higher source. That faith isn't a gift received overnight. It's something nurtured over time by choosing to trust even in the toughest situations. History shows us countless examples of women who demonstrated this strong faith. Esther, who risked her life to save her people. Mary, who accepted the role of the Savior's mother by trusting God's plan, even without understanding what was to come. And Deborah, the prophetess, and leader who guided Israel during war times, always trusting in God's divine purpose. These women stood out not because they were extraordinary in themselves, but because of the faith they placed in God, knowing that their true strength did not come from their own abilities, but from the one who makes the impossible possible. Have you ever felt discouraged, wondering if the circumstances are greater than your faith? If so, know that true faith isn't measured by the absence of problems, but by how we respond to them. It's the assurance that even in the most challenging situations, God is in control and provides a firm foundation to lean on. A woman of faith knows that no matter what happens, God will never abandon her. Her faith sustains, strengthens, and guides her every step. By choosing to trust in God, you'll discover a strength you never thought you had. No matter what life brings, with that unshakable faith, you will be able to weather any storm. Wisdom is a divine gift that lights up our path and helps us make decisions in line with God's purpose. It's more than just having knowledge. It's the ability to discern between right and wrong, the immediate and the eternal. A wise woman doesn't act on impulse, but seeks God's direction before making any choice. Often, the options before us aren't easy, and life puts us at crossroads with many possibilities. But when we seek divine wisdom, our eyes open to the path that leads us to our true purpose. Remember Solomon, who, when he was placed on the throne, asked God for wisdom instead of wealth or power. God, in his generosity, granted him not only wisdom but also riches and honor. Just like Solomon, you too can ask God for wisdom in every decision, whether it's about family, work, or personal relationships. Divine guidance never fails and is always there to help you choose what is right, even when the world tries to steer you off course. Patience is one of the most challenging gifts to cultivate, yet it is incredibly powerful. It's not just about waiting passively, but having complete trust that God is in control of everything. A woman of God understands that God's timing may be different from ours, yet it is always perfect, and she chooses to trust even when everything seems to be moving too slowly. How many times have you worried about the future when the answer seems delayed and the promise isn't fulfilled in the expected time? It's easy to feel like something is wrong, but patience is the virtue of those who know that God is never late. He is constantly working in your life, preparing a future that, even if you can't see it yet, will unfold at the right moment. A clear example is the story of Sarah, who, along with Abraham, waited many years for the promise of a child. Even when doubts arose and she tried to speed things up, she learned the hard way that God's promise comes in His perfect time. When she was already 90 years old, God blessed her with Isaac. The wait wasn't easy, but it demonstrated God's faithfulness. Thus, patience means waiting without losing hope, trusting that even if everything seems slow, God is working for your good. In a fast-paced world, being patient is a call to set aside anxiety and embrace God's perfect timing. If you are waiting for something from God right now, remember that patience isn't about being passive, it's about active trust. Keep praying, keep seeking, and keep waiting, for God is always in control and has not forgotten you. Courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means having the strength to move forward despite it. It's the ability to rise up in the face of difficulties and keep going, even when obstacles seem larger than you. A woman of God is courageous not because she never faces challenges, but because she knows the Lord empowers her for any battle. Think of Esther, a young woman who found herself in a situation where risking her life to save her people seemed impossible. When her uncle Mordecai urged her to appear before the king, she knew that decision could cost her life, but instead of letting fear take over, she found the courage to act. She trusted that God was with her and that if it was His will, she could fulfill a greater purpose. With faith and courage, she went before the king, saving her people and changing the course of her nation's history. Courage is believing that even with an uncertain future, God is by your side. A woman of faith doesn't freeze in the face of fear. She uses her courage to stand up, whether in a spiritual battle, at work, or in her personal relationships. Often, this courage is quiet, yet it drives you to keep going, to forgive, to rise again after a fall, or to take a step of faith even when you can't see the whole path. God has given you that courage and strengthens you to face every challenge with your head held high. Inside you lies the same courage as Esther, Deborah, and so many other women who, with God's help, confronted their fears and transformed their lives. All you need to do is awaken that courage and take the first step. Unconditional love is undoubtedly one of the most powerful gifts a woman of God can possess. It goes far beyond fleeting feelings and is expressed as a daily choice to love and serve regardless of circumstances. This love reflects the heart of Christ, who loved us without limits and taught us to love deeply and transformatively. Many times, the world makes us think that love depends on reciprocity, but God's love is different. He loved us even when we were imperfect, even when we were far from what we should be. As women of faith, we are called to show this unconditional love in our lives. One of the most touching examples is the story of Ruth. After losing her husband, she could have returned to her homeland, but she chose to stay by her mother-in-law Naomi's side without knowing what the future held. Ruth demonstrated a deep, loyal love that went beyond blood ties, and through that love, God blessed her, starting a lineage that would lead to the coming of Jesus. Loving unconditionally doesn't mean being passive or accepting wrong. It means seeing others as God sees them, with compassion and mercy. It means forgiving, even when it seems undeserved, and offering another chance, even if your heart has been hurt. God's love within us has the power to heal, restore, and transform. In your life, God invites you to practice that unconditional love, even when it's hard, especially when you feel wounded. Remember that the love you share reflects the love God has already placed in you, and by loving in this way, you not only build up others, but also become more like Christ. Gratitude is an attitude that not only honors God, but also opens the door to new blessings. A woman of God understands that even in the toughest situations, there is always something to be thankful for. Gratitude doesn't depend on circumstances, but on the certainty that God is working in your life at every moment, even when you don't always notice it. It's a choice to recognize God's goodness in every situation, no matter how challenging. Paul teaches us in his letter to the Thessalonians to give thanks in every situation, because that is God's will for us in Jesus Christ. This doesn't mean we should be grateful for pain or hardship, but for the assurance that even amid challenges, God is with us, never abandoning us, and that his plan never fails. Gratitude helps us focus on what truly matters. When we value what we have, instead of complaining about what we lack, our perspective changes. It's easy to get lost in the constant desire for more, but a grateful woman sees that every moment, every breath, and every daily blessing is a gift from God. Think of Hannah, the mother of Samuel, who prayed fervently and saw her request answered by God. Even before she became a mother, Hannah showed a heart full of gratitude during her struggles, praising God and acknowledging his faithfulness even before seeing the answers. When our gratitude comes before the response, we demonstrate a deep trust in God. Practicing gratitude shifts our focus and makes room for God to do even more in our lives. Gratitude isn't just about words. It's a daily attitude that transforms our hearts and brings us closer to God. A grateful woman feels whole because she sees God's hand at work in every part of her life. Resilience is the gift of getting back up after every fall and continuing forward with faith and determination. It isn't about being invincible, but recognizing that even in the hardest moments, God is present and ready to lift you up. A woman of God is resilient because she trusts in divine strength to overcome obstacles and start anew whenever necessary. Life is made up not only of victories, but also of setbacks. We all experience moments of weakness, disappointment, and pain, but the difference between those who persist and those who give up lies in resilience. That ability to bounce back, learn from difficulties, and keep going with a heart full of faith is essential. Think of Job's story. He lost everything he loved, his family, his wealth, and his health. But even in his suffering, he never abandoned his faith in God. He questioned, he grieved, yet he never turned away from the Lord. In the end, God restored his life abundantly, giving him more than he had lost. Job's resilience didn't come from his own strength, but from the certainty that God was by his side every step of the way, from pain to victory. Being resilient doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending nothing happened. It means facing adversity and believing that God can bring something good even out of the toughest situations. When you allow yourself to fall and then rise again, you show the true strength of a woman of God. There will be times when the fall seems immense, but remember, your resilience comes from God, who empowers you to start over, learn from your mistakes, and move forward with renewed hope. A woman of God is resilient because she knows that with Him there is always a new opportunity. These gifts aren't one-time presents. They are qualities we must seek, nurture, and practice daily, allowing God to transform and strengthen us. Unwavering faith, wisdom, patience, courage, unconditional love, gratitude, and resilience are gifts God gives us to face life's challenges, but each one must be fed with prayer, trust, and action. No matter how difficult the circumstances, God is ready to work in your life and help these gifts blossom in you. You might be going through a tough time right now, but remember, every hardship is an opportunity to grow in faith, trust, and strength that comes from God. A woman of God isn't one who never faces problems, but one who, even amid struggles, keeps her trust in God and hope for a better future. When you start to see these gifts manifesting in your life, you'll notice a profound transformation. Your outlook on challenges will change, and instead of feeling defeated, you'll feel empowered to overcome any obstacle, knowing you are never alone because God is with you every step of the way. I invite you to seek more of God, to pray, to meditate on His Word, and to live according to the gifts He has already placed in your heart. Remember that these gifts are available to all of us, and you can start putting them into practice right now. To conclude, I'd love to know, which of these gifts do you feel that God has been working on most in your life? Share in the comments how these gifts have impacted your journey. May God continue to bless and strengthen you every day.